All right, we are live.
Only on the outside. You knew I was going to say that, though, because I make that joke every time we start this clip.
Are you crispy on the inside?
I'm mostly, like, black and hollow.
Oh, like the center of my heart.
Yes.
And with that, I don't know where to transition because what else is black center other than a black hole?
Um, my soul, mostly, but, like, well, I don't have one of those, let's be real. At least it's well
Only
illuminated.
gingers have that, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to get back to the gingers have souls rather than don't have souls.
The only soul they have is a Kia soul.
But the Kias are getting better nowadays. Actually,
Yeah.
my parents are planning to buy one of the new Kias, the big SUV one.
Oh, the probably Telluride or something, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. It's only because isn't that Colorado?
Kia. It's a car.
They name it after the Colorado
I have
mountain or
no
peak or something
idea.
like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's how I named my dog. I was like, oh, place in Colorado. But good enough for me.
Yes.
Right, girl? Right, Utah?
Yeah, she's underneath this table right now.
Yeah, I'm not just staring at my foot and like.
Yeah. So if you got another husky, what would you name her? Or him?
I would probably name it. Depends.
You would name it Depends.
Yes, I would name it Depends because they shit rivers for the first 3 years of their life. 2 years.
Depends. Come here.
Depends.
Depends.
The
Are you
only
feeling?
thing
Are you
keeping my
feeling
floors
bad?
intact.
Yeah, that'd actually be a really funny dog's name.
Depends.
Yeah, Depends.
Yeah, that would be appropriate for Husky though, because he'd be like, "Come here, Depends," and he's like, "Oh, it depends. You gonna give me food?"
Depends. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Depends. Are you hungry right now?
You gonna eat? Depends. Depends on if there's filet mignon in this bowl. Yeah, well,
Yeah, so there's a really popular husky channel, Gotan the Husky, or Gohan the Husky. Ever see it?
Gohan.
Gohan the Husky, where he feeds him raw meat every day,
That
and some chicken legs, chicken feet.
that's intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense husky stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of like a wolf mix type thing, or if it's like a sled dog slash he literally found it in the wild and just brought it home. I don't know. I feel like I'd just be too nervous to feed my dog raw meat.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the kid eat it, but
Yeah, but
she also
so
has a sensitive stomach, so maybe
yeah,
not.
huskies in general have sensitive stomachs, and mine is notoriously bad. Not notoriously bad, but like she'll go out.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. She'll go out and eat grass and then immediately throw it up, and I'm like, well, then stop eating grass. But then the next day she'll do it again from the same patch of grass, and I'm like, this isn't like a one-time thing. This is like 4 days in a row she'll do this, and I'm like, all right, there's a pattern. And I know you can recognize patterns because she knows that the lock turns when I go in or out on the front door, and she's locked me out by spinning the deadbolt before. So, like, she catches patterns.
Yeah, I know. Every day around like 5:30, 5:45, she's barking, ready for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what'd be good for her stomach issues?
Rice.
She doesn't really like to eat the rice.
If you salt and pepper it, she does.
Oh,
But,
the
like, not
salt,
too much,
salt's
yeah.
her jam then.
Yeah. Yeah, she's salty about life like I am.
Depends.
Oh, man.
But speaking about salt, I was watching a video earlier today, and it was the guy, he was asking people on the street. So Katy Perry has a petition to get rid of sodium chloride, a toxic additive to food, and would like your advocacy. And people are like, yeah, get rid of sodium chloride. Who needs that? I don't eat it's probably dangerous. And
Did he follow it up with like, "What's your favorite spice?" And they answered salt or pepper usually.
No, but it would have been great if it's like, do you ever put salt on your food? Yeah, all the time.
Oh man.
Classic people, man.
Yep. Not as bad as. I kind of. This is totally offensive, but I also love the videos where people go around. They're like, "Oh yeah, we need your vote to end women's suffrage." But like they'll even go up to a woman and
So
say
many
that.
people will say, yes,
Yeah,
I
'cause
support it.
And I think we discussed this before filming this today because it sounds like women's suffering. So people who don't know that suffrage means voting, they're just like, "Oh yeah, I don't want women to suffer. We'll get rid of this burden on their chest, and everything will be hunky dory." Like that's the one thing that we got to resolve with women's issues.
Yeah, I think it comes from people hearing marriage so much that they have that itch, and it's like a, it means of like some
I think that's a bit of a
feeling.
stretch, but
I feel like
I
that's
see
where
where
it
you're
comes
coming from. But
Or
I
like
think it's a stretch.
suffrage, and they're like, oh, it's a state of suffering. I think that's where it comes from.
Okay, so you're saying, from a word construction standpoint,
Word construction.
The
They
suffix
think
is the end,
Yeah, because they don't
therefore-
know what
okay.
the word means, and they're just like, oh, age. I've heard that before. The only other really big word that people use is marriage. I don't know other.
Yeah, which is
age
like-
word.
marring but permanent because it's got "age" at the end, based on your logic.
Yeah. So they're like suffering, age, suffrage. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's suffering but
state of
permanent.
the state, yeah, the state of permanent suffering.
But every now and then, though, you get the one person who doesn't only understand it, but they also seem
they
to
will
be.
shit on you. Yeah.
They're like very outspoken that you're an asshole for asking. Which, to their credit, you probably are.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. If you're gonna ask stupid questions like that.
Yeah, you expect that reasonably as an outcome. Like,
Yes, and I feel like most of our viewers would get that.
all none of them
'Cause-
right now.
All none of them. Because if you'd watch this, you'd have to get some of our shit because we're just super sarcastic 100% of the time.
Yeah, and it's tough. So at least where we have tonality, sarcasm doesn't always translate the best. But
That
I
is
think
true.
our delivery is enough out there where we're like, all right, like we're just being dicks for sport. We're not actually trying to end women's suffrage. Other than that one time,
Can you explain to me that one time?
I was being sarcastic. Gotta explicitly state that after, apparently.
Being the dick
Also known
calling
as
you out.
2007, but like,
2007.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you vote for Joe Biden, I heard he's on the ending women's suffrage team.
He probably is, yeah. He'll vote for whatever you tell him. He doesn't
Along
remember.
with not taking a cognitive test train.
There was, the what is it? The Onion.
Yeah.
They make up articles. They're like, they had one about Joe Biden. I can't remember what it was. It was something like, "I don't have Alzheimer's. I'm really sharp." Joe Biden screams at Pigeon.
Yeah.
"I get tested every day." like
Yeah.
that's a little too real.
Especially with the election coming up and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's funny because on YouTube when I watch the ads or when I'm watching videos, it will be Joe Biden ad, Trump ad, Joe Biden ad, Trump, Biden, Trump, and it will go between them.
I'm waiting for the
And-
privately funded Bernie Sanders ones to pop
Yes,
up too.
I-
Like the people
like
with the
the
pipe
one-
dream, they're like, but this is still Bernie Sanders' year. Like they're just so fed up because they already bought the Bernie 2020 bumper sticker. They're like, well, shit, now I got to make this work. Like they're just trying to find their way out.
Some rich cocksucker who's like, yep, this is the year. But I feel like he doesn't have that many rich people supporting
Bernie?
him anyway.
No, not at all. I think he had a
So-
lot of very passionate people who were like, if you looked at the donation statistics for Bernie, I think he had like one of the highest volume but lowest average donations of most candidates, which showed that he had a very wide fan base that maybe didn't have substantial economic means in all cases, but were still more passionate about it and willing to contribute.
Yeah.
Which actually I think is almost a better thing to have because it shows that even if people don't have as much to give, they're still behind you enough and more passionate about it. They're still willing to contribute what they can give. Which is pretty cool, I thought.
Which he still didn't win the.
No, he totally got boned again. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, my boy Pete Buttigieg, I'm probably saying that wrong.
He was
He
your
was my
boy?
number one, but he was totally like, they came to him, they had like a bunch of people in a dim lit room with their hoods on, and they were like, Peter, we need you to drop out so Biden can win, or else. I was going to say your wife can die, then I remembered he was gay. Or else your husband will die. Like whatever sketchy stuff the Democratic Party does this year. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a few others that, who was it? Klobuchar, too. Amy Klobuchar dropped out at the exact same time, and then right after they dropped out, that's when Biden suddenly had enough votes to defeat Bernie. I was like, all right, it's a little sketchy. Because I thought they were both very legitimate candidates, and I kind of the three of them, those two and Biden, I was like, Biden's the only one that I was like, I'm not wild about him.
Yeah, but apparently a lot of people are.
Are they, though? Dude, the guy's got the energy level of like a dead rabbit. Like once he was probably lively. He ain't there no more, man. Like
He popped out of the magician's hat too many times, and
he's
was
like, I'm here. It's magic. And then he was like, they put him down 5 minutes after the show was done. Actually, I don't know. Those rabbits could go to a farm somewhere. I have no idea.
Yo, do you think they should have you take a cognitive test as you vote? So,
No,
like, you'd have
because
to know stuff about the United States in order to vote. Like a minimum requirement to, like, are you eligible to understand what
here's
you're
the
voting for?
unfortunate part of democracy. Democracy is what does the mass want, not what does the competent, intelligent group of people want. Which is like, and here's
It's
the
true.
thing.
I mean, if you want to have everyone vote, you got it.
Yeah. And the point is, like, whether or not you recognize of those people, there might be more of them. Like, so we live in, one of the
6-0 free.
the more crowded areas of New Hampshire, which means there's also more people statistically of lower incomes and lower education levels than some of the other areas that are like straight up rich, which we're not.
Yeah, but there's some rich areas here too.
Yeah, there's some nicer ones, but they're like usually a few towns over, right? And there's like a couple nicer ones that are in the city we're in, but they're not like the super wealthy ones.
Yeah.
Because all those guys have their mansions out with their like 20 acres or whatever, and there just isn't that much land here, like, quite frankly. But as a result of that, like, there's a lot of lesser intelligent people, and after living in an area like this for a couple of years, I could definitely see how those people outnumber the people who have more than 3 brain cells to rub together.
Well, I think it's also the fact that technology in general has made people stupider. Even though they have more available at their fingertips, they tend to gravitate more towards time-wasting things.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think we have a much better wealth of knowledge available to us at all times, especially with, the unlimited power of Google searching. But I think it makes people less sharp because they're less inclined to figure out things on their own, even if they could. And even like I used to do math stuff in my head all the time, and I was like good at it, and I was sharp, and I could do it. And now, like, I tried adding the other day, and I was like, oh, dude, carry the 1. Like, it was
Yeah, I'm the
bad.
same
It was
way.
real bad. Like, it was embarrassing.
Yeah, we don't need to do that anymore. You just kind of pull out your phone or pull out Google.
Yeah, and it
just
does it
type
for
in.
you, and
Yeah.
then you're done. So I
Yeah.
think that has enabled people to be lazier in their mental processing.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Joe
Which is
Biden
why-
hasn't used it in 85 years. I don't actually know how old he is, but like whatever his age is plus 12, that's how long he
He's
hasn't
probably
used it
70
for.
something.
Yeah, no.
enough to get Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Oh, brutal, dude, brutal. Oh my God.
But enough about the election. Let's talk about something that
Yeah.
recently happened, which
Still,
is
still the
more
least shitty candidate, probably. So with that, we're gonna pivot.
pivot to a more recent, as in news of today, and will come within the next month or two.
Yeah. So news article that came from today. Today being the time of filming, not the day of posting, because we're incompetent. It's going to take us 3.5 years to post this, but should get voted on later in the next month or so. And that is the MORE Act. You want to explain what MORE is?
MORE is when you don't have enough money and you go ask your neighbor for no. So the MORE Act, which is going through the House right now, is the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement. It took me a while there. I had to really dig.
Yeah, I
on
couldn't
deep.
tell if you were trying to be dramatic, and then you kept pausing, and I was like, he forgot.
Definitely forgot.
Yeah.
This is going back to the fact that you don't use it, you lose it, right? I didn't look at it. And
So Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment Expungement Act.
yes.
And the premise of the act, as at least as far as I understand it, and I want you to confirm this, is federal level for the United States, legalization of marijuana, and then as part of that, expunging the records of anyone who has been arrested for marijuana-related charges.
Yes, exactly.
And then what's the reinvestment part? Do you know that?
Not specifically, but it's probably along the lines of taxing marijuana and using that to reinvest in the economy, as well as we were going to talk about how reallocating resources that were once used to
combat or arrest
drugs.
or okay.
But what was I gonna say? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Had a Joe Biden
just
moment
drew
there.
just do another dramatic pause, or as we call it, pull a Joe Biden.
Pull a Joe Biden moment. So,
I hope, like, if Joe Biden ever watches this, I hope he's got a sense of humor. And he knows, like, we're messing with him.
yes, exactly. Like, I was watching some of Andrew Schultz today talk about how when you make fun of people, the people who are being made fun of usually can find a sense of humor in it, for the most part. Not all of them, but they usually are like, oh, yeah, you got me. That was clever. And it's the people who are around them, the social justice warriors and stuff,
They're like,
like
oh,
the
that's
representatives.
offensive. Yeah,
That's offensive. They're
the
super
Twitter sphere
offended.
that goes crazy.
Yeah, but honestly, like, most of them are, that's funny.
Yeah, because, okay, so realistically, before we go back into the MORE Act, like, Joe Biden, to his credit, whether or not you agree with his policies, very successful career at what he's done. Obviously, he's been in office in various positions for a very long time. He was vice president. I mean, the most I was vice president of was a fraternity, and that was obviously, like, a mistake in its own. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do that for a country. Like, bold move, man. Like,
Yes.
definitely exceeding the accomplishments I have, especially with the corruption to get his son a job in the Ukraine.
Are you going to transition into that now? Corruption.
Had to backhand the compliment at the end.
You're like, you're cool, except you're fucking corrupt.
You're great. Potentially corrupt, though. But, like, okay, here's the thing, though. Like, whether or not... My point is, very successful career. Hopefully has a sense of humor about it. Like, we're allowed to shit on him to an extent because we can, but, like, also recognize his accomplishments. Like getting his son a job. Probably the hardest accomplishment of his career, actually, some might say.
You mean other than taking a cognitive test?
Other than passing a cognitive test.
Yes.
Yep,
that's the one. Taking it, not too bad, but
yeah, because they just gave him some Crayolas and he was like drooling a bit, maybe.
chomped on the crayon, trying to get a little bit of
no, I don't
nutrition.
think he was a Marine.
Oh shit!
Just like that, pissed off a few more people.
Yo, you're really loading them in there. You ready to get shot
we
at?
discriminate against everyone equally.
Yes, equal discrimination.
Yeah, it's. I think this is the intent of the Black Lives Matter movement. They're like, nah, systemic racism against only a select group of individuals. Screw that. Let's target it at everyone all the time. That's really what it's about. I'm going to hell for that one. Yeah, okay. I'm done. All right. I'm done with that.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a bullet hole in your head.
Yeah, you're gonna wake up in the morning and like you're gonna be like, Zach's sleeping really late. It's gonna be like 2 p.m. You're gonna go in and my blood is gonna be splattered against the wall, and there won't be a suicide note. You'll be like, oh, it actually might be a murder this time.
I wonder if he said too much last night.
Yeah, probably. Oh well.
So going back to the Moore Act.
Back to the Moore Act. Right.
So what I was gonna talk about was some of our viewers will be like, oh well, I know a lot of states where marijuana is legal. So what does this act have anything to do? It doesn't change anything. It's already legal. I can go to Mass. I can go to California.
So it's legalized at the state level, but not the federal level, right?
Yeah. So explain a little bit more about that.
So okay, basically what it means is, at the state level, the state won't recognize charges if you get, caught in possession of marijuana, or, in certain cases, if you're growing it, as long as you have the right business licenses, it's not an issue. However, federally, it is still a crime. So if for whatever reason the FBI pulled you over, they're a federal level, they can still charge you with possession or with distribution or whatever. Or if you're growing it illegally, they can still come in and shut you down because it's not a federally recognized legal substance at this point, even if you do have a business license at the state level. On top of that, from like a business perspective,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And this is what I was telling you about earlier, because it's not federally legalized and there's a lot of risks involved with it, and there's, other stipulations to that effect, you're not eligible for a lot of funding. You're not eligible for, certain types of bank accounts, and federally they can still freeze your assets. You're not eligible for most of the tax returns because it's not a legal substance. So like, your sales are still like questionable, and you can write off some of your business expenses that are, overhead utilities, some things like that, I think. But the majority of your expenses are still not tax deductible. So it makes it very difficult to operate in that business.
Yes.
So I think the legalization should make it a lot more competitive for these businesses to compete with the black market, and quite frankly shield them from a lot of the liability and the stress of potentially being subject to a federal raid that could shut them down instantly, even if they are recognized at the state level right now.
Yes, which is huge business-wise. It would allow more, dispensaries to open up, and potentially could lower prices because people could be the businesses could be more efficient in how they use it, and they can write off a lot of tax deductible stuff, which is right now being passed off to the consumer.
Yeah.
Whereas the other thing that the MORE Act allows is, because it's federally recognized, they will be receiving tax benefits from it. So they proposed a 5% tax, federal tax on marijuana, which we looked up the marijuana sales back in 2019 with recreational use around 9 billion and the medical use around 6 billion, which is around 15 billion total in 2019.
And that's just legalized.
And that's just legalized, not even
legalized through reputable or, licensed dealers.
Yes, and recorded on the books.
Yeah.
Which is a huge number and is expected to grow at least 40% with this year and year after year. So
that's 15 billion in 1 year.
Yes. And so if you imagine the government taxing $15 billion at 5%, that would be around 750 million tax revenue.
I'm doing the math on my calculator because I'm lazy and it enables me to.
Yeah, I did the math before.
So you're not going to believe this, but that's about $750 million per year.
Yes.
Based on last year's statistics.
Which is a lot of money to go back into the government. And that's not even including what you brought up before when we were talking about this, the amount of money saved from not having to allocate resources.
The indirect.
Indirect.
Yeah. So it's $750 million of direct revenue generated. But then there's the indirect savings from, some of the flow down that they're preventing cost spending elsewhere. So, for example, granted, we're going to have new regulations. There's going to be new things in place to make sure that things are safe. Obviously, there's going to be some enforcement of those regulations, so there's going to be some costs associated with that.
Yes.
However, I think those regulations of these legal entities who have to be licensed and pay for these licenses, I think that'll kind of break even from the licensing fees and that perspective. I think we're going to save substantial amounts of money on the enforcement of things that are related to marijuana, on the arrests, on the strain it puts on the legal system for processing these arrests. And, obviously there's labor for employing officers to do this.
Yeah.
That takes them away from being able to do other things. Obviously,
Not just that, court time.
court
right? 'Cause,
time. Yep.
Yeah, that's
All
expensive.
those, yep.
Anytime you're in the courtrooms, lawyer fees,
Yep.
right?
And then, because, a lot of them are lower income individuals who have to get public defenders. So then, these public defenders are busy defending these charges. They don't have necessarily the bandwidth to defend other people as well.
Which, could be more important, like murders, rapes,
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
stuff that.
if someone's wrongly accused and you're defending them, then I would agree. Otherwise,
Yeah, but even if they were accused, it would be good to allocate resources if they
to
were,
these more important trials. Yeah, I
because
agree
then
with
they
that.
can have more state defense on their side, which now state
Well-
defense would be like
well,
for
state
lower
defense
income.
that's prosecution.
No, but that is prosecution, but also if you do not have the ability to
Oh, you're saying-
defend yourself and you're low income.
You're saying better defense provided for people who are unable to get representation for
Yes.
themselves otherwise.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. Yep. That's good.
So there's a huge domino effect, which we're basically alluding to.
Yeah.
that-
So I already told Matt this. I looked up the numbers earlier for FBI had their 2017 statistics. So these are a little outdated, but still probably representative of the ratios of, one type of crime to another. And in 2017, there were 1.2 million crimes that were violent crimes with victims reported. So those are crimes with victims that were violent in nature. So
and these were the reported ones.
and these are the reported ones. Yep. So that includes assaults, that includes, rapes, murders, things like that. In the same year, there were 660,000 arrests for marijuana related offenses. Of the violent crimes, of those 1.2 million, there were just under 520,000 arrests. So we arrested and processed more people for marijuana and related offenses for that, possession, distribution, whatever, than we did for these violent crimes. So I'm not saying that it necessarily takes up as many as the resources or more resources. I think those other ones that were unsolved and no arrests made, they were still probably investigated and they just didn't have enough to pursue them and make arrests based on it. But I think you're still talking 660,000 cases and arrests in a year, in a single year at the federal level, just at the federal level. I think if you dial that way back, that gives you so much more bandwidth for the agents, for the court systems, for everything to go and pursue these, what I quite frankly think are more important cases where they are victimed crimes,
Yeah.
where they are more severe crimes. And I think that would not necessarily solve all of them, but give us at least more resolution than we're currently getting.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing about marijuana being banned right now as a Schedule 1 drug, meaning that it has no medical use, has obviously been shown in many medical records and studies that it does have medical use. And there are a lot of states now, at least 30 states, that have medical marijuana use.
Yeah, especially when
And
used properly and for the right things.
Yes, exactly, which is the goal here. It's not to go wild and say, marijuana for everyone for free.
You get a marijuana,
Yeah, no,
and
it's
you
not.
get a marijuana.
It's not like that. It's
We're
gonna
just
be
gonna Oprah this bitch, like everyone reach under your seat.
It's not like the government paycheck that's just gonna go into your bank account. Like,
A government paycheck of marijuana where they just like
It's like you go to your bank and just pull out your marijuana
you get
deposit.
your monthly withdrawal. Like
Monthly withdrawal. No, but it's gonna be more like not as open as alcohol, but definitely controlled in a way that
yeah,
you'd have to have certain requirements, like a certain age, to use, and you have to purchase it in certain, like we said, licensed places. So it will be less shady.
but there's still going to be
a lot of
controls
ways.
on it. There's still going to be testing on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like you were talking about before, you found some article where in states that it has been legalized, the amount of teenage use has declined.
Yeah, so specifically Colorado is the one I was looking at the numbers
Yeah.
for. But yeah, they didn't have an exact percentage, but teenage use did decline for marijuana users. Actually, I should double check this. We might have to cut this real quick. So
Well,
I'm just
while
gonna,
you cut it, I was going to mention some other thing, which I call it, I don't know what it's actually called, but it's the don't cross tape, or the red button don't press. The whole idea that people and individuals in general are interested in changing their consciousness to be able to change their moods. And for as long as humans existed, we've always used some sort of drug. And to say that you can't use that, especially a substance like marijuana, which is lower in the potential dangers than a lot of other drugs, is pretty preposterous. So,
yes.
yeah, you found it?
No, I didn't find it yet. I'm having
You're
trouble.
just swiping through Tinder right now.
Yeah, no. So I want to say I can't find the exact same article that I found earlier, but I want to say there was like one state that legalized that went up in teen use, and all the other states went down. And I'm trying to find which one it was.
Yeah.
But the point is, effectively at this point, there just isn't enough data. There's not enough history and not enough accurate reporting across enough states to really say one way or the other that it is better or worse yet. I think it might be comparable to a little bit better. I think, like you said, right, there's kind of that mental red tape of, ooh, it's illegal, that kind of gives it a bit of a cool factor.
Yeah.
And I think on the other hand, probably to a lesser extent, kind of with alcohol, there's some people who are like, oh yeah, like it's legalized and I can get it eventually. Not as cool to do it now, and I can wait like a couple of years to get it legally, so not a big deal that I have to try it now. So I think a combination of those two, I would anticipate a decline in younger users as a result of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, alcohol is legal. Are there people who are addicted to it? Yes. But a majority of the users of alcohol are social and or occasional drinkers. And that's probably what's going to happen with marijuana, where of course you'll have the people who are addicted now and or may become addicted, which is a small percentage of those that are using it recreationally, socially, and for medical uses, which far outweigh the smaller category of dangers.
Dangerous medical
Dangerous
dangerous
Chewbacca's.
marijuana use. I almost said dangerous medical wanna.
Medical wanna.
I was like, that's not a word. We can make it a word though. Medical
make it.
wanna in stores now.
It would probably sell pretty well.
I heard medical grade's the best, so like,
It's pretty good shit.
is it?
Yeah.
They have that back in Jersey?
Well, no, they don't. Jersey's not legal yet.
Oh,
No, but in Canada they do. And that shit's strong. In Colorado, that's
So that-
strong too.
that's another reason we were talking about earlier for why we think it should be legalized on a federal level. That gives states the power to implement it kind of how they see fit. But like right now, obviously we're in New Hampshire,
Where
it's-
it's medically, but
medically,
not recreationally.
but not recreationally. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little difficult to get it still here. But
But
pretty
you can
much
go
everywhere
ar-
around us,
Yes, all the other states.
Canada,
3 states.
Maine, Vermont, Mass, recreational. Have
Yes.
fun.
Exactly. So for us, the closest is probably Mass.
Yeah.
Going right over the border.
Yeah, for where we are in the state, yeah.
Yeah.
But like a little, so it's kind of this, kind of like how we were talking about the whole gun thing before, right? Where we're like, even if states restrict it, unless it's done at the federal level, it really doesn't make a difference because you can just go to the next one over where it's a little more relaxed and still make the purchases.
Yeah.
Same thing here, which is why I think federal regulation to have those, baseline rules in place, I think it's critical, especially in areas like New England where the states are small and in, an hour, 15 minutes, I can be in 3 different states.
Yeah.
A little crucial there.
Yeah, but I still think people who are diehard may end up driving. For example, cigarettes are cheaper in one state than the other. People
Yeah,
will
that's true.
drive over to the other state, even though it's legal in their state. But then at the end of the day, it just comes down to the state taxes and the supply. So,
Yeah, I agree. So I think, that's another good point too, right? A lot of it's going to depend on how at the state level they handle it, even if this does pass, which I'm skeptical it will. This seems
yeah,
to be
it most likely get shut down in the
in the Senate.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is primarily a Democratic backed bill, and I think the Senate, I believe, is still Republican controlled, right?
Yeah.
That sounds right. So they're probably going to shut it down and be like, "Ooh, abortions are bad," or whatever they do, and then
But they
vote
might
against
try to
it.
prolong it till after the election, hoping that
Kick it to the next.
Yeah, maybe they can kick it to the next round. But
I think if they want to shut it down, they're going to do it now and not take that risk.
yeah, but it is getting close. I mean, it's coming 2 months away.
That's true.
I don't know when they might not get into the offices till January. I don't know the exact.
Yeah, but even
date,
so, a
but-
lot of the kind of changes in market knee-jerk reactions that happen after the winner is announced, people kind of know their policies and know their stances on things, and the markets and everything and policies kind of readjust to that anticipation anyhow.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because we have very conservative views on guns, but very liberal views on
On pretty much everything
on
else.
marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of New Hampshire in general, where it's depends. It could swing in
Yeah, I mean,
elections. and,
so New Hampshire's a very moderate state in general.
yeah,
And that's why we're always a swing state. Is you obviously have some people who are on the extreme end
yeah. Obviously,
know-
closer to the cities or in the cities, and then
versus farther out.
further up north, they're probably
Oh, they're very right wing.
Yeah, right-wing,
farther
yeah.
north. Yeah, 100%. But then you get some very left people down in the southern part of the state too, where it's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
conservative. But on the whole, I'd say it's very moderate. And there's a lot of those people who are kind of on the fence either way because as we just established. Based on our last one, yeah, we're very right wing when it comes to gun rights because
yeah.
we're just pro rights in general, gun rights being one of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting how different rights are
Fall under one
fall
versus
under
the other.
one on the other. Yeah, where it's
The
it's a
right to
little bit
smoke weed,
weird.
that's I think the pursuit of happiness.
I mean, there's other,
But then
that's
conservatives
under
don't
one
like
of them.
that
Yeah,
one,
yeah. There's a lot of those weird ones, and yeah, it's a strange world that we live in.
Yeah,
But-
that's why I just smoke meth.
Yeah, it's like, well, now that weed's legal, let me just upgrade my drug of choice.
Yeah, I think that's a stupid policy though. They're like, oh, it's a gateway drug. Because if you look at the statistics, like very few people progress to that next level. I think you're more likely to go to what I would consider the harder drugs because of some sort of like a pill addiction. or
Yeah,
something,
like
and
if
then
it
you
was
transition over.
opioids, you would stick with an opioid, but it'd be more powerful opioid. It'd
Yeah.
give you the same effects.
And I think when I was looking it up, that's like the most common way for people to get into heroin is they're on painkillers and
Yes.
they have to get the fix of something in that family, and then heroin's cheaper, and they make that transition.
Yeah.
I don't think you're like, oh, I smoked 2 marijuanas. Guess I'm gonna try crack. Like, I don't think that happens.
Yeah, I don't think it goes like that. And I think it's also a good thing in general because my view of marijuana is it opens people's minds to other ideas and possibilities. This is often the stoner like, haha, that's like a crazy thought, and people are like, oh, those are stupid thoughts. But oftentimes, some of them are actually pretty good thoughts, and you can often have good discussions. I mean, if you ever watch Joe Rogan when he's high, some of those discussions come out really well.
Also known
So-
is if you ever watch Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, period. I mean, he's like
Yeah,
a
he-
huge advocate of it.
I was gonna say he's high like 24/8, like to his credit.
It's 8 because he's high. That's why it gets extended.
Yeah. Oh, still more together than Biden though. And with that, we wrapped it back together. Is that where it should close out for the day?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I guess we'll catch you next time.
Next episode.
Yeah, shortly after Biden passes his next Alzheimer's test.
Yo, that might be years. So catch you never.
All right. Because we're going to get banned. Anyway.
Out.